You guys ready to start? All right, let's go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our panel. This is Middle Eastern, North African, or MENA representation in media. This is the third year in a row that we've done this panel here at WonderCon, so thank you again, WonderCon. This is a panel where we discuss and highlight the importance of Middle Eastern representation in all forms of Western media, whether it's film, television, music, comedy, writing, animation, podcasting, whatever. If it's MENA, we're here for it, we want to talk about it. I am the moderator. My name is Paul Zechariah. My pronouns are he, him. I'm an actor and filmmaker based in Los Angeles. I've been on the web series Mr. Student Body President. I've done projects for Crack and BuzzFeed and some short films, 48 Hour. And my background is Iraqi, Egyptian, and Palestinian.
My name is Sarah Patini. I'm a stand-up comedian and actress. My pronouns are that bitch. I've been in commercials for Gooder, Lube Life, and I perform stand-up all over LA, Comedy Store, Laugh Factory. I just did Skankfest and was the Roast Battle Champion of 2023. And my background is Iranian.
Hi, I am Yasim Basiri. My pronouns are he, him. I'm an actor, writer, and producer. I've done things. I also have college humor. I was in Spencer Sloan's MVP, Nanny Plays, Biggie Splitters. I've also done a lot of musical theater, so I'm currently in Urinetown, the musical. I'm half. That's why I have a Latin melanin. So. I'm also very tired because I'm not taking my hours today. So.
Hi, I'm Esra Darwish. I'm an assistant director, and I direct and produce in my free time. I worked on The Woman in the Yard. The movie came out 2 days ago. Yesterday? This is The Woman in the Yard. I also worked on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Barry, and the upcoming Ham That Rocks the Cradle remake. And my background is I am a Muslim Egyptian.
Hi, I'm Kaveh Taherian. My family's from Iran. I've worked on a lot of stuff, but currently I am a podcaster and a cartoonist. I'm not tabling at this convention, but I table at most common conventions. I worked in film for 10 years. Sorry, just go look at IMDb. I don't remember half the stuff that I did. When you work in film, yeah, you tend to go to one show to the next, to the next, to the next. But I did also used to be an AD, just like Esra over here, but I also was a documentary producer. And isn't that enough? Thanks.
Hello, I am TJ Searle. I always forget the answers to these questions. So I'm TJ Searle. I am I'm a designer and I work mainly in television. It's like my 20th year, I think, in the business this year. And my background is I'm a Palestinian American.
Hey everyone, my name is my name is Jazmin La Shae. I am a content creator and cosplayer. I've done official collaborations with Marvel, Nintendo, and more. I am full-blooded Iraqi Muslim Shia.
Thank you guys. By the way, do we have any MENA folks here in the audience? Yes? Shout out, where are you from? Palestine! Palestine! Yes! Good to see you again. Yes. Who else? What? Yes! Awesome. What was it?
It was an air high five.
Yes. What? Yeah?
My dad was from Yemen.
Oh, nice. Well, thank you guys so much for coming here. And like I said, we've done this panel many times at different cons to like I said, highlight representation and highlight those working in their different fields. And we have folks working in different mediums, all across the board, whether they're a performer or a creator or work behind the scenes, or even going so far as having a big voice when it comes to fandom. And for my panelists here, I want to kind of explore more what they are, how their background has influenced their own careers and what it can mean for more representation in the future. And so I'm going to start with Sarah. She's right next to me. Sarah, you as a comedian, you've used humor as the thing is, you use humor. Humor has often been used as a tool or, a coping skill. And whether it's been through your stand-up or web series, how have you used it to either face or embrace stereotypes?
So that's a great question. I would say, so I did have a web series back in the day called Saffron and Rose about two Iranian-American girls who start a secret podcast about sex. The style was very Broad City, kind of crass humor, but I really am fighting for female representation of Middle Eastern women. And, people, I really think people are taken aback when they see my stand-up a little bit. I have a lot of dark humor. And not necessarily all of it is about my ethnicity. Some of it is because that's who I am. And, I think just existing in that space is breaking a stereotype because there are many Middle Eastern comedians who, when you walk in as a Middle Eastern comedian, you are looked at as your race and you are expected to have your entire set be about your ethnicity, which falls into tokenization, which isn't necessarily progress. Now, there are some comedians who do that. They're saying, this is my audience, this is what I want to do, I want to represent, and that's fine. But yeah, I think just don't look at yourself as a Middle Eastern comedian, look at yourself as a comedian who is of Middle Eastern descent. And also, who said that Middle Eastern audiences only like Middle Eastern material? Yeah, but yeah, I've really found my voice the last few years, and I think just existing in this space is a form of resistance and representation.
Now, Yas, as an actor, you've done acting, you've done writing, you've been in theater, you've had your own web series as well, and I wanted to ask you, when it comes to casting, people have often had this idea of what Middle Eastern looks like. And how has that influenced your acting and writing career, and what have you done in terms of how you want to combat that with your own form of representation?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because, so I'm trans, and before I transitioned, I had really long blonde hair. And so I was always told you didn't look Middle Eastern enough. I think my testosterone has been really excited about me being Middle Eastern because I feel a lot more mixed now, which has been interesting because I've actually gotten called in for roles where, especially commercials, they break down basically when they say they don't want white people, they list every single ethnicity but white. And I got this audition, I kept reading through, I'm like, oh my god, they didn't put Caucasian. There's a Middle Eastern, it's me. But there was a part, I had an acting teacher tell me I'd never play Middle Eastern, and so as a writer, going through the different letters of the alphabet soup, being lesbian, non-binary, and trans, I always felt like I had to write my own material. I never felt like I existed anywhere. That includes being mixed as well. And because it's really interesting, I was considered fully white until 9/11, and afterwards I was considered mixed, so that's a whole different interesting thing. But I realized in doing that, I was like, I guess I can't write myself as Middle Eastern. That means I can't have other Middle Eastern, if I need a family member. And I decided, screw that. I'm going to write from my culture and who I am. And I think it's really informed. I wrote this really chaotic short film called Brestercism about a trans man who can't afford top surgery and turns to the occult. And I ended up making it really Middle Eastern. It wasn't Middle Eastern at first, and now Sarah's going to play my sister, Coffee is going to be in it. So it's just, as resurrecting it, actually from this panel that Paul put together, it's really coming together. But I didn't write it as Persian at first, and now there's Farsi that I'm going to butcher in it. And there's a lot about that relationship with a grandparent that I think is really unique in Middle Eastern culture. That wasn't in it before. So that was a long-winded answer to say it's been a journey to get there, and I think it's important to have that, especially as a queer Middle Eastern Eastern person. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, of course. Now, Ezra,
Yes.
despite, these times and, what's trying to be changed and everything, there's still a big push for, more inclusion in the workplace. And you've had a long history working on set as a production assistant, as an AD. And so, when you've worked on set, like, how has that made you want to push for more progress? Like, what are some ways that you've been trying to combat that from a behind-the-scenes perspective?
Well, standing on a set that, everyone thinks is authentic Middle Eastern, and you're like, this is so racist, guys. This is so bad. And you're the only one. So when you go up and you say, hey guys, maybe we should do some research to fix this, they're like, suspension of disbelief, no one cares. And for me, that, obviously that rubs you the wrong way. That's your culture, that's your people they're representing, and it's not a fair shake. So I thankfully became an assistant director, and what I've been trying to do is find other Middle Eastern people who want to become assistant directors or want to work in the film industry and hire them. Like, I put myself in a hiring position because it's ridiculous to be the only person standing on the set saying, this is not real life, this is not what it looks like.
For sure. Probably. You've been a filmmaker, you've been an artist, you've been an illustrator, you've been a podcaster, you've been all across the board here. You've tackled so many different mediums. And what would you say are some ways where you feel like you best tackled our representation?
Well, I still do a lot of those things. It's not over yet. It's funny to actually hear a list of all those different things that I did, because I think that also encompasses my inability to settle on one identity as a creative person. So it kind of gets intertwined and makes everything a little bit more complicated. But I think the thing that I always come back to is a sense of trying to figure out who I actually am. And is your Middle Eastern identity who you are? Is the place that you grew up and were born in is who you are? Is your, there's all these questions that you can ask, and I think every time you start a new medium that you're going to work in, aside from learning the form, you just have to kind of come back to asking the same questions about yourself. And I think additionally a problem that maybe a bunch of us up here can speak to as well is, I'm not from Iran, I'm from here. And at this point, it's now becoming cliche where it's like, oh, you're firstborn, in the States, and you're trying to kind of caught between these two cultures, and which one is the one that's me, and how do I reflect that best in whatever medium that I'm working in. And as I've gotten older and I've done this for longer and longer, I realized that none of that shit matters. You kind of just have to do, kind of like Sarah, what you were talking about, is just be who you are in the complete form that it is. If it's serious, it's serious. If it's goofy, if it's Middle Eastern, or in my case Iranian, it's Iranian, or if it's more American, it's American. It doesn't really matter. I try not to really think about what representation specifically is, because on some level it just feels like a checklist of things that you have to have. And once you put it in a checklist form, things don't go well, just in general, especially with what your race is and what approves or doesn't approve as far as what fits into that category. So all this is a way is to say that I just think about what I want and what I like, and I just assume that it'll shine through in whatever it is that I'm actually doing.
And you shine every time. TJ, you've had a lot of success working on many big name projects and have partaken in activism as well. So in these spaces, what would you say are the strengths and weaknesses that you had to deal with both professionally and personally?
I spent a lot of time, I think, contemplating the answer to this question and how it would be sort of appropriately answered. And I think my initial reaction to it was probably the most honest, which is to say, everybody who's here is a fan of probably genre work and films and things of that nature. And it's similar to, I guess, U.S. history. When you think about a movie, there's the officially sanctioned version, and there's what actually happened. And so, when you reach a certain level of production, on the ground levels, it's great. It's about exploring your craft, and it's about honing what you do, and it's about your creative expression. But when you reach a certain level and the budget gets to a certain point, it no longer becomes about that. It becomes a lot about power and control. And so, for me, I'm a designer and I'm working in my, my corner, and I would love to tell you that I have a really, I perform a very vital role, and my creativity is essential to what we do. But the reality is, when I'm working in my little corner, and there are moments when like a producer very rarely will come into the art department to actually check on what's going on, or connect with somebody. I mean, I'm looked at by the department heads, and I'm told the producer's about to walk in the room, do not speak. And so, and I mean, you guys are laughing, but it's true. It's true, that happens. And that happens again and again and again. I was talking to a friend of mine who's a voiceover actress, and she's extremely talented, and you've probably seen the stuff she's in. And she was sort of lamenting. She also does a lot of direction. She's like, no one is allowed to talk to each other. We don't talk to the writers, and we don't talk to those kinds of people. So as this relates to us being mean to people, when you think about power and control, it kind of boomerangs back, because systems of oppression, such as settler colonialism, are fundamentally about power and control. And so, to use an example that we've seen in the media recently, Snow White came out, and there's been a lot of controversy. Some of them I think are a little bit contrived by the media, but they're not ungrounded. And so I was reading an article just the other day where the producer's son decided to chime into this very large thing. And, to boil it down, at one point the story broke that the producer, the lead actress, Rachel Ziegler, has taken a pro-Palestinian stance, and she's been public about that. And as she's promoting the film, she has mentioned Palestine a few times. And at some point, the studio asked the producer to get a plane and tell her to can it. And I think that's very powerful, one, because she's a woman of color, and two, because the other actress in that film, Gal Gadot, is Israeli, and she's not told to stop speaking about those things. So power and control kind of filters back to who is allowed to speak, who is allowed to say what, and at every juncture, those things are often decided at a level above you, and you have to constantly be sort of aware of that and try to navigate that. And there's no level, no matter how big of a production you are on, where that will not come into play.
It's an interesting point about, demonstrating, like who's being censored and who's not, and everything, and who's being allowed to speak up about certain things. And, now more than ever, like our voices are important and, have to be raised for, a lot of issues like this. And whether, talking about whatever in media. And I know fandoms in particular definitely have a really big voice, a really big say in, what gets made, or what they react to, what they like and what they don't like. And that's where we come to Jazmin. Now more than ever, fans have become very vocal about media and involved in media creation. And as a fan and a creator, what kind of role do you think fandom should play in the push for better representation?
Fandom is so important. You guys saw it with Sonic, right? When they first illustrated Sonic, it wasn't that great. And the fans weighed in like, hey, this isn't what we'd like to see. We'd like to see Sonic redrawn. And it was constructive criticism, and they followed through, and now Sonic is one of the most successful, if not the most successful, video game franchise, because we know all the live action movies tend not to be that great, right? But look at the amazing success just from the fans speaking up. So there's so much power in your voice, and I will always encourage everyone to always speak up. It doesn't matter how small you are, how big you are. It's like a butterfly wing flapping, right? What you do will create waves, and people will see it and people will hear it. And it's really important that we have that, because, and I will always speak to it if you've been on this panel before, this is like my personal, chip on my shoulder, that if you think about it, there really is no Middle Eastern characters. The ones we do get are automatically given to other races, and it's really unfair. So I'm here for representation. I'm here for everyone sitting at the table and bringing their stories and platforming it. So characters like Princess Jasmine in Aladdin, right? The live action was not a Middle Eastern character. It was an Indian actress, right? And the upcoming One Piece live action has a character named Princess Vivi, and that is also supposed to be very influenced by the Arabian Peninsula, and again, it's an Indian actress. So it's time and time again where we have such very few roles that are getting lost, and then to bring it to present day, fandom is incredibly important in terms of representation. And even though Miss Marvel is not Middle Eastern or North African, she is South Asian, she's Pakistani, she is Muslim. And a lot of people were introduced to what Islam looks like, which is, very often correlated with Middle Eastern culture. And you got to see people learning about Miss Marvel, loving her for who she is. It wasn't always just her religion. It was also who she was, who her culture was. In the show, you got to see Eid, which tonight is the first night of Eid. And I think that's really important because a lot of people were like, oh, I didn't know that, or she's a fangirl. And that's something that, Sarah was saying, and so was Kaveh. We're not a monolith, right? We're all very different people. It's not a checklist. She doesn't have a hijab on, which is like a very visible, sign that someone's Muslim. But you got to see that in her culture. You got to see it in her living room where she had Quran verses in the background. It's very much what a Muslim house looks like. It's very much what a Middle Eastern house looks like as well. And I think representation is so important because it shows people that we are more than what you see on what the media decides to show you, right? You get to see who we are, that we are fans, that we are characters of all sorts of different types, princesses and heroes and more.
Woo! Absolutely. There has been some progress in recent years with more, MENA folks working behind the scenes and on camera for big name projects. I think of things like Rami, which is on Hulu, and Mo, which is on Netflix, and just had its second and final season. And I think about the show. That show, for example, both Mohammed Nader and Rami Youssef, they co-created that, and they were part of each other's shows. And I feel like that's a very underrated aspect that isn't talked about as much because it also shows that they're not just creating new works for anybody to watch, or not. They're also building a creative community. And I think that's something that's very important in order to happen in MENA communities as well. And I'm even seeing it now. You guys are going to be part of a short. Yeah. So what would you guys say, and this is for everybody, what would you guys say are some ways to build that creative community, find that creative posse, and inform more MENA folks or non-MENA folks about the kind of work that we can create?
Well, I'll just talk about what we've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
So Yas and I co-host the 1001 Film Nights film screenings. After the strikes and the lack of work and everything like that, nobody's making anything right now. So we were like, well, what are we gonna do? Like we don't have any funding for our stuff. We don't have any money to go and make a short right now. So let's just show movies that informed us who we were by showing like Middle Eastern films to people who've never seen it before. We found a cafe that was willing to work with us. We don't charge at the door. We're just like, come on in, watch a film that you haven't seen, and hopefully you get an idea of like who we actually are, since this art is being made by people from our community. And we decided we should screen short films from up-and-coming MENA filmmakers in the area before the feature film. And I think that's my favorite part of it, is just not only are you coming to see a film that you might have seen before that you maybe have never seen ever, but then you also have someone in your own community who is out there making stuff, and you get to interact with them. And the hope was that people would come and get to know each other and start making stuff themselves. Because when we do these panels, we're always like, make your own stuff, make your own stuff. And it's so easy to say that, but when no one's interested in making stuff with you because they don't get the importance of it, or they don't get what you're trying to say, it's hard to do that. So we just wanted to create like a community space, a third space that's not just on the internet, where you can come in, chill, meet other people, and enjoy a film.
Anyone have that?
Yeah, I swear I was so sorry. I swear I was not being rude by being on my phone, but use social media to your advantage. I was actually just looking up, because I forgot the actual username about Middle Eastern spaces. Like there's MENA Advocacy. There's, I'm not going to go through all of
Show us
them.
your phone each time then.
Yes. Oh, MENA Arts Initiative. I think that's what it was. Yeah. So every. Just don't go through my browser history. Every month they put MENA like events in LA, New York, across the Middle East, Chicago, and they listed out days. It could be concerts, it could be hangouts, it could be screenings. I believe Esther, you're on it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, Instagram, Twitter. I know social media has a lot of downsides, but for us, it's been nothing but good.
I was going to say too, on top of that, I'm going to say the opposite of what you're saying, which is social media, you cannot trust it. Because it's not going to be able to see what you want to see because some robot is controlling what it is. And I'm a little bit older, so I remember signing up for mailing lists and being like, oh, this is annoying, you're just going to get spammed. But for the love of God, sign up for mailing lists if people have them, because then you will actually see the goddamn thing being sent to you instead of being blocked or instead of being shown to somebody else or instead of you sitting to have to post like 50 times before anyone even sees something in your feed.
It's real though. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, even for us, we had to sit there and fight with the algorithm to even be seen. I didn't see our own like paid advertisements. I'm like, I made this.
Yeah.
I didn't see it on my own private profile. So
And these are dark times. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. As we sit here on the stage and talk about the future of media and the kind of stuff that we're going to make, things are not going to get greenlit, period, the end. I'm sorry to have to just bring down the tone of this, but like that's the truth. So the idea that anything's going to get made beyond this period of time for the next at least 4 years, it's not going to happen. So it's much more important now. You guys are in this room. Take a look to your left, take a look to your right. These are all people that are interested in the same thing that you guys are. God bless you all for showing up to this panel. Hopefully, you can make some friends here, either in this room or at this convention. That's how we all met. That's how we were able to put this thing together. I should say we, like as if I did it before. You guys did.
I mean, Paul.
But what I'm saying is, it's going to have to go a little bit kind of backwards in a sense. You're going to have to be on group chats. You're going to have to be, don't go on Signal, because that's a Don't assume that just because you're on Instagram, anyone's going to see it. So you really kind of have to just think old school. And you have to also think smaller. We're not going to be able to have a movie that's going to play in a movie. I mean, huge movies that are, costing hundreds of millions of dollars aren't even shown in movie theaters at this point.
can I interject here?
Yes, go ahead.
So we got the rights to screen No Other Land. If you're not familiar with what that is, it is the Palestinian documentary that won the Oscar this year. No one is screening it.
Yeah, that doesn't have US distribution.
They do not have a distributor. So we were trying to get this out there to as many people as possible, and we reached out to a lot of other popular screening groups, and we're like, hey, do you want to work together on this? And at first they were like, yeah, absolutely, we definitely want to do this. And then I believe his name is, he got taken by Israeli soldiers and disappeared, and thankfully appeared very quickly when there was international outcry. But after that moment, everyone has gone silent on me. No one wants to work with us. So it's so frustrating because it's not just a political film. It is, I mean, it's a film and it's being censored. You're not allowed to see this movie.
Can I stop for a clarification? He was not taken by Israeli soldiers. He was lynched by violence.
Oh, there you go. That's even worse.
It's a picnic. I think also it's important to note that, there's a lot of non-Middle Eastern people here, and that's also really important to show up. I think something too is our culture, and this comes for anybody, can come out in so many different ways. So it's collaborate, even if your script or your film or your comic or whatever you're working on is not you're not looking to do the next Prince of Persia or something. You can still bring on Middle Eastern people because there's a reality that this is a business and there's a level of equity and people need to get paid, but also we're going to bring a unique perspective that there's so many things that are community coded. My Big Factory Wedding is not a Persian film, but as a kid growing up, that was one of the most Persian things in the US I think I saw. Half of them also look like my cousins. And so I think there's an element of, we can find it. When we were looking for recommendations for our short film, we were getting a lot of white women. And we were just well, let's keep looking around. And now we actually have a trans Persian man who's going to be doing production design. And so it's that type of thing where he's going to bring a type of perspective that
Campaigns by companies that's celebrate Easter. Easter doesn't apply to me. We do believe in Jesus. We just I'm not gonna get into that, but I was just like, how about Ramadan instead? How about Eid instead? And that way, I work with a company that, you know, has millions of followers and officially collaborates with all the big companies, Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, Nintendo, and so forth, and that had that reach. And so that many people saw, instead of like an Easter gift buying thing, right? They saw an Eid gift buying thing, and they look, oh, it's normalizing our people. It's getting that out there, and you know, I know it's a dark moment we talked about, but you know, like the one of the directors, was it the director of the movie, No Other Land? Yeah. So when he got kidnapped, if it was not for the world pleading for him to be back, he would not be back, right? And it's only because of that media outreach and people knowing that he exists and asking for him back. But this is getting there, right? So we're not anywhere near the Oscars, right? But we're getting to a point where we're bringing our people up, and we're not just, you know, oh, that one random, yeah, I guess I know like one Middle Eastern person. No, you could refer to media, you could refer to content creators, you could refer to companies that share us. And so speaking to others, collaborating with others, whether you're part of it, you're Middle Eastern, or you're an ally, is incredibly important for growth, not just for us, but for all of us.
Thank you, guys. So yeah, basically, you know, the most important thing right now is community when it comes to what we're doing, how we unite, and what we create. And something that, you know, we didn't really see much of, you know, growing up and when we were young and everything, and now this is the time to do it. So, you know, like, I didn't really see much, you know, representation growing up, except for Aladdin.
Yes. Stop talking about Aladdin.
One time. But
I still dress up as Princess Jasmine every year for Halloween.
but yeah, so basically, you know, didn't really see much. And, you know, sometimes I wondered, like, what I would tell myself, my younger self, as I am right now, in terms of how to get up on, you know, trying to, you know, push for, you know, not just creating your art, but, you know, also, you know, pushing for representation. And I think it was already mentioned once here before, you know, when we say representation, you know, we don't just mean, you know, tokenism or, you know, filling a quota or anything like that. What's really important, and what we stress on this panel, is that we want, you know, stories about Middle Eastern people created by Middle Eastern people. And so that's one, you know, one thing that we push for. And, you know, if I were to tell my young Canadian self when he was you know, interested in film. Sorry guys, I'm Canadian. I say. I'm bi-national, I go both ways.
Once that I'm safe, I'm gonna go nowhere.
But, what was I going with this? Oh yeah, I would say, you know, I would tell that younger self, I would say, you know, be fearless with the stories that you tell. You know, don't be afraid that, you know, no one's gonna get it because, you know, they're not you. It's like, don't do it. And that leads me to the next question for you guys is, what is something that you could tell your younger self now?
Transition sooner. I guess I have to talk because I just
I mean, you were gonna.
Well, I feel like it really, unlocked a lot of like connection, I think, to my culture in a way, because I was brought up with it, but I think it was just something getting to see. I don't know if I've actually ever told this to anybody, but you know it's gonna make me emotional, but as a kid, I always wanted to be a boy with short brown hair, who was maybe a little bit more tan. I'm working on that part still. But getting to be that person, I think now is actually insane. And I think just getting to embrace that more, and I think I feel like I've been able to find myself a bit more in my like cultural stories, because I feel like I always identified with those male characters, but I think that's something I would have been like, you know, maybe I made my dad read me The Shaman, like when I was a kid, or like really get into like our stories and our culture, and to be able to share that with people and then not have like people tell me growing up that like, oh, you'll never play this, you'll never be able to do this, so you don't get to represent your own culture, which is crazy because like, well, a lot of Middle Easterns get highlights, go to Orange County. Oh, we are in Orange County. Yeah. You know, you look down the street, they look at
Create your own path. That's, I heard Emma Stone say it at the MTV Movie Awards in 2010. And I mean, kind of like what we were talking about with creating content. What this panel is about is us making our own stories. Your path is not going to look exactly like anybody else's. But so don't feel like you have to, like you're failing or falling behind if you're not exactly in line with somebody else or whoever you look up to. And also something that I wish I could say now to so many other Middle Eastern people in this industry is don't have a scarcity mindset. There is enough room for all of us. It's like what Rami Youssef says. It doesn't matter who's first. It matters that there's room for everybody.
I think, yeah. I mean, to go with what Sarah said, like, you are making your own path. In our industries, oftentimes we are the first ones or we're the only ones in the room. And if I could go back to my own self, I'd be like, be twice as fucking me. Hell yeah. There are people here in this room who've known me for years and know who I am as a person, but it's like when an injustice happens, you can't be silent. I mean, if you stick your neck out, you know it's likely to be locked off, but you can't be afraid of that. Because if you do get blacklisted or pushed out or whatever, someone else will come up behind you. I mean, your sword isn't going to go away. So for me, I think growing up in a Western society, I always had this idea that, like, it's that stereotype they sell you of yourself, of, like, Middle Eastern women specifically being submissive or quiet and subdued. And then I would go visit my aunts in Egypt, and I was like, holy shit, they are nothing like this. They are so ferocious as people. And I got to learn from them that, like, this is actually what your culture is. This is part of who you are. Like, you are here to stand your ground and fight for whatever you think is right. So do that, and don't let anybody tell you who you are.
I guess I would just tell myself, you already are what you think you are, and finish things. Finish it. Finish it. Don't worry about who's going to read it or see it. Just make sure it's done. It's something I still tell myself every day now. But.
See, that's uncle advice.
Could have used myself as an uncle back then.
On my own.
Yeah.
Since we put a ban on mentioning a movie, the question of like which film growing up affected you has not come up. So I've never got an answer, so I'm going to answer it now. The film that affected me and it sort of like spoke to my identity in that respect was actually Kingdom of Heaven. And I found that interesting because I'm also a Habsi. And so the story of Kingdom of Heaven is all these British people attacking these Palestinian people, and so it's literally like my ancestors fighting each other. So I spent a lot of time reflecting on that and what that means as a person who is sort of has a biracial identity. And there's other reasons that I love that movie that I won't get into, but I think that something I would tell myself relative to what I learned in that experience is one of the secrets to harmony is the ability to hold two truths within yourself simultaneously. And neither one negates or erases the other. They can both be equal and they can both be true.
So, major coincidence, but fortune favors the bold. Be yourself, be brave, be loud, let them hear you, and let them see you.
Thank you guys. Now, before we close out here, Is there anything that you guys are working on right now that you'd like to talk about, share, promote, anything that people can know about?
Yeah.
Nothing specific at the moment, but I am working on my social media following, and I do sketches pretty much. I post every, if not every day, then every couple of days. So check me out at Sarah Fatini Official on Instagram. You will not be disappointed.
Guys, if you don't follow Sarah, she's absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, she said that she dresses as Princess Jasmine on Halloween, but she does it a lot more than
This is not an OnlyFans thing. It's a sketch comedy.
Yeah, so I am coming out with a podcast in the fall with Audie Roque of Outhouse. If you have watched that, it's called In Full View, focusing on trans masks in media. We're going to be interviewing different trans masculine professionals in entertainment. It's inspired by the podcast, it's inspired by the panel I am going to actually be hosting right after this upstairs in room 300, trans masculine representation in entertainment. Come, don't be transphobic. Deal with everyone in the county. No, it's fine. Maybe. My name at Yas Madrasa Syria, the podcast is at In Full View. And like we said, there's going to be other projects coming out. Yeah, those are my two things.
Yeah.
I also second going to Yas's panel. I've seen it before. It's amazing. He's a much better moderator than me.
I'm supposed to say that.
On that note, so Yas and I are working on a short film together called The Breastercism. Hopefully we'll have that out soon, and we'll be able to post it somewhere for you guys to watch, or at a film festival. Keep an eye out for that. But if you are interested in watching Middle Eastern films, come talk to us afterwards. We'll give you a business card for 1001 Film Nights. Follow us. If you have a movie theater and you want to screen No Other Land, please talk to me, because I do want to get this film in front of as many people as we can.
You also get to see my acting debut in The Breastercism.
Yes.
I host a podcast called 500 Open Tabs. My lovely editor, Alyssa, is here in the audience. Round of applause. Every week, my co-host, Hannah Hillman, and I, we choose one of the million open tabs we have on our phone, and we do the deep dive into the topic. Explain it to each other. And we go into it blind every week, so we have no idea what we're going to do, both in terms of us not being prepared beforehand, and also in terms of hearing what the other person says. Also, Yas, I just did one about the legend of Siash a couple weeks ago. So I got to go read a huge chunk of the Shahnameh and try to explain it to a white person. It was a lot of fun. I also, my website's blacksmithfilms.com. So I have a bunch of graphic novels and books and comic strips that you guys that are available for purchase. I am by trade a illustrator and cartoonist, and also a filmmaker. As I said, I sound like I'm posting on LinkedIn or something. But, at PermaFriends is what's that?
Nobody goes on the
Yeah, it's true. I feel like I just graduated. Here's a filmmaker, storyteller, like 50 different things that I do. At PermaFriends is my handle on Instagram. You may or may not see any of my posts, depending on what the algorithm wants to show you. But if anyone here is going to be in Chicago, I'm going to be at C2E2, I'm going to be tabling there, and then I don't know, probably a bunch of other conventions. But yeah, I have one more book coming out at some point this year if I can get my shit together.
Yeah.
I have nothing to promote. But I will take this opportunity to actually plug a Friends program, because I think it can be really advantageous for some people. I have friends that run a small studio space, and they've been bringing out a really cool program for quite a long time. It's called Warehouse Workshops. And so they'll have people like professional filmmakers come in, they'll do demonstrations, they'll build full sets, light them, and then show various techniques. And these are really professional people. It's a very high quality program. It's in Van Nuys, but Warehouse Workshops, go on Instagram, they have it. And so sort of like what I was saying earlier about, not being able to speak and being at a certain level, this is a chance to connect with really professional people with great experience who will actually give you the time of day and who may actually call you back. So check it out, it's a really cool program.
I'm a content creator, so you can follow me on my social media. It's the same name you see in front of you. And I actually have a podcast coming out, so I'm starting the journey of watching One Piece. Pray for me. So we do have a podcast coming out called The Grand Line Diaries, and we launch it. I hope to see you guys there.
Thank you guys. And as for me, you can follow me on Instagram, Hollywood Forever. I post stuff there about film and cosplaying and work that I'm doing right now. And the biggest thing, I'm developing my first feature film that I'm going to direct. Thank you. Follow that page and also follow my production label, Stage Z Entertainment, again, Canadian Z, on Instagram as well. I just want to say before we close out, guys, I don't know about you, but I think this is the biggest and also the best audience we've ever had here. So please give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you guys so much for coming to this panel and hearing us and hearing our stories and everything. We really appreciate it. Let's give a big round of applause to these amazing panelists. Also, let's give a big thank you to our videographer here, Jazmin.
We have a couple minutes. Do you want to open up for questions?
One question.
I have one question.
Yes.
So I wrote it down actually because I was very excited for this panel. So let me go to my notes for it. Okay. So I am a white presenting woman. I am Asian, but you can barely tell it. It's only my eyes. It's okay. I just look like I'm squinting all the time. How do you guys, just in all of your different jobs, all of the things that you do, all of your passion projects, because all of you guys are creatives, but you all are different kinds of creatives in your own regards. How do you navigate the blending of your traditional MENA roots and cultural values and customs with the often Western nerd-centric, film-centric, all those kinds of things, those cultures, and how do you guys express both of those aspects in those identities in a way to where you feel accepted by both communities that you kind of have to branch out towards?
That's such a good question.
Yeah. I was just telling you about the Legend of Sea actually we just did. Here's the thing. I've been in this long enough where I'm like, I just assume that no one's going to accept me either way. So I'm just going to do the thing that I think is funny and probably bother everybody. And so I was telling the story of the shaman on that, and in it, there's this character who, he's born as a king and he gets sent off and he comes back, and his stepmother has this weird thing where she's kind of in love with him because she doesn't know who he is. And the next thing I know, I'm making jokes about pornography and then a stepmother and then someone getting stuck in a laundry machine. It's not appropriate for either culture really, but I don't really give a shit. And I felt very liberated in doing that because I was like, shit, this is how I want to tell this story. And it merges these two things that are both, thousands of years old and totally lewd and crass. And like I said, it's you just have to be okay with no one liking you, and that's fine. And some people will like you, and that's great if they do, but otherwise, tough shit.
Like I said before, authenticity is everything. I do not, when I'm writing material, it's about my life, my day. I don't think, is this too Middle Eastern? Is this, too dirty? No, it is what it's going to be. And like I mentioned before, even Middle Eastern audiences, I just did a packed show at the Laugh Factory a couple weeks ago for the Persian New Year. And there were these old Iranians in their 60s, 70s, laughing at mostly non-Iranian material. Really dark and sexual stuff from these comics. And so you just be you. Don't try to put yourself in a box because you think that that's what's expected of you.
I feel like I like to try to find things that maybe are Middle Eastern or that could be like when we went to San Diego Comic-Con last year, Coffee was like, they put a banner up for us, and it was a photo of Samland, the video game. It's stuff like that. Or my girlfriend and I were watching Sailor Moon and the Moonlight Night with the Arabian music and this Japanese man dressed. I'm just like, you know what? I loved him as a kid though. Now I know why. So I think sometimes it's just finding ways, or like I got Mirage, the Assassin's Creed game, and he's a Rocky, but it's really nice being like Aquaman. It's like, you know, yes, there's camels, but it's a bird, so it's fine, right? Like I'm not Rocky, but we don't really have one. But yeah, I think it's just finding ways. And then I do the thing, like I think I got it from my dad that I do all the time. We walk by other Persians, we'll walk by like a few steps on Persian. But I think I do that with art too, like, you know, there's a voice actor, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's fine, I agree with Kate. It's just, you know, the people, they're out there to really accept you and embrace you, and they don't, and they're not worth your time.
I think, everyone loves a good story regardless of culture or where they come from. So just tell your story, make sure you tell it good.
I have a question for you guys. Can we take a group selfie?
Yeah.
All right. You guys can stand up if you want to. Come on. Can I stand up here for a selfie? Really? There you go. I like that. I don't know if Okay, I'm gonna take a video. All right. Everybody likes. Just wave and say hi. All right.
Thank you guys for coming. Have a great rest of your time here at WonderCon. Everyone 300 for more representation in the media. I have to run.